there with the healing side of it. I see a lot of people constantly thinking that they're going to go through pain and healing, that this healing journey doesn't end. I'm at this point in time in my life against that idea, and I think healing can end and get to a point. It's just there's a structure to healing, and no one knows, well, not no one, but very small percentage of the population understands the structure and the process of actually healing and getting through to completion, where the problem actually stops. And the reason, we're always feeling going through patterns or repeating cycles, whether it's over months or years, is because there's a root cause or an underlying problem, which is very hard to fucking get to. Like plant ceremonies don't get you there. They can help, and it can, but for the majority, it doesn't. Same as therapy. Like most of my clients have been in therapy from 5 to 20 years. And in 1 or 2 sessions, they go, fuck, I didn't understand this about myself over this time. And I also didn't know you can actually just clear it like we did.
Hello, and welcome back to A Woman Refined podcast. I am your host, as always, Lauren Renee. And this month on the podcast, we have hypnotherapist and practitioner Clayton Harrop. So Clayton has blown up recently on the socials, but this was recorded well before that. So I hope you enjoy our candid conversation. We discuss all things that he does in his clinical practice and what he sees in society and in his clients. And we just have a great chat about relationships and the state of today's world. So hopefully we can get him back on now that he's doing his nervous system reset work, and we can have another chat about that. If you would love to see that, let me know, and I can send that to him and make sure that he knows that you guys loved listening to him and that you want him back. You can shoot me an email, a woman refines podcast at gmail.com, or shoot me a DM, a_woman_refined on Instagram. If you could do all of those social thingies like, share, subscribe, give it stars, leave a review, all of those things really help the algorithm. And the algorithm needs us, but we need the algorithm more. So it would really help me, and I would really appreciate it. It helps this podcast reach more people, and I would love that. Otherwise, I'll leave you with it. So enjoy listening to Clayton, and I'll see you guys next month. Well, Clayton, welcome to A Woman Refined podcast.
Thank you for having me, Lauren. It's a pleasure to finally be here.
Yeah, we've been trying to tee this up for a while since last year, so I'm glad that we finally made it happen. Now, you've never listened to my podcast, so you're coming in blind. I'm excited for you. You don't know what you're going to get.
I'm excited for this too.
So I was just telling you the story before we were recording here about how I stumbled across your stuff, and it was pure algorithm, and I didn't know who you were, and it just came up, and I was like, who's this guy? Another guy saying some stuff about relationships online. Okay. What's the saying they say now? Like another bro with a mic or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just because you have a podcast mic doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, that whole thing. But you actually said some stuff that I was like, oh, okay. I actually agree with all of that, and he knows what he's talking about. And I started following you, and we started chatting, and yeah, I was like, I dig it. I dig it. And then I saw that you had been invited onto the SBS. What was it entitled? Something about men and
It was meant to be about dating dynamics and struggles and how to balance out the masculine feminine conflicts that we're facing.
but it ended up being something completely different.
The only thing I can liken it to is and it's what a lot of the other gentlemen on there said, was just an attempted hit piece that I to a degree wore the brunt of, but at the same time, it was a bump in the road with things, but it definitely wasn't what we went in there for.
How funny. So they approached you and
Yeah, they reached out to me and they just said, we're having a debate three verse three on, modern day dating and issues with masculinity and femininity. We'd love to have your opinion, in the discussion.
Yeah.
And I thought, sure. I think that there were several coaches that I actually knew. It worked out really interesting timing that were going to go on who had a much bigger following and whatnot than I did. But for one reason or another, they couldn't make it. And so I was somewhere along the chain of people to reach out to, and so ended up on there. And yeah, it was an experience. It was a free education in PR and how to work with journalists. But I now
Yeah.
know, and it's served me a lot since.
Yeah. So you got like a lot of the backlash. A lot of the clips that I saw come out of there were taken out of context because I went and watched the whole thing
Mm.
and I was like, wow, there's a lot in here and you can see it being cut. You can see the leading questions. You can see the
It
way that
was,
things are phrased.
yeah, it was 2.5 hours of filming, cut down to 40 something minutes.
Yeah.
And everything that I did say had explanation and reasoning I mean, you've seen my content. I'm
Yes.
very well thought out, and I don't just say, you know, women this or men that. I back it up and explain why, and usually there's a harsh truth with a very empathetic brush over it as well. And it just, yeah, there was so much context thrown out of what I actually said and the meaning I was trying to convey. But that's the lesson learned with, corporatized media like that.
Yeah. You probably don't know this about me, but I used to work in PR. I used to work for Warner Brothers actually, long, long time ago. So I was on the other end of that kind of stuff. And yeah, know how that can be weaponized. I've seen, I worked with lots of magazines and TV studios and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty
Yeah.
insane. But I think as well, I think it's just such a heavy topic for a lot of people because how would I explain this? I feel like the TikTok brain has really stunted. Okay, I think we've got literally retarded people like
Hmm.
with cameras and phones and whatever and making content, and we have elevated people whose brains have like been unable to handle very complex, nuanced conversations that aren't 15-second reels. And therefore, they want those moments that it's like, I need that grab, or no one is going to watch this thing. Like, that's what it's come down to. And I think there was an interview with maybe it was Matt Damon. I think they were talking about Good Will Hunting, and he was saying you could never make a movie like Good Will Hunting now because they don't have the attention of the audience anymore. And studios only want to remake things that they know is going to get people in, they know is going to make money. They're never going to just take a chance. And they just don't have that kind of backing anymore. So, yeah, they need people who are going to say really controversial things that may sound bad, but then when you have the context, they're like, oh, it's not that bad. Actually, I kind of agree with that. But they need those people to say those things so they can pull those clips so they can get everyone onto their side. And look, it did a great job. They sent everyone there. Everyone was in an uproar.
Yeah, definitely.
What kind of
Definitely.
what kind of hate did you get? Do you mind me asking?
No, 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 not at all. I've never really spoken about it, but I initially reacted very, what's the word? Like defensively, I guess, like defending, like, no, this isn't the true message, you got it wrong. Because there's quite a few women who reached out and said, you're a pig, you're this, go die. And look, to be fair, like, I got it, like the way it was framed and how it looked and what they left out. Especially, this incredible point where I made about masculinity not being a problem, but the lack of masculinity is the problem. I very much articulated that point. Everyone agreed and it was really nice, and that led into women and just all gone.
Mm.
And so what was left, I thought, okay, I get it. Just so you're aware, this isn't the truth of it. And no one cared. And after a while, it was you're this. And I was like, no, I help plenty of women. I've helped, women who are suicidal. I've helped women who are out of marriages wanting to get into them and in them wanting to get out. I love women. Large part of like what I do is because I grew up with a single mother wanting to help create a better world for women. Men too. And it just wasn't landing. And so I thought, you know what, fuck it. I can't do anything about this. It's out there. There's a greater game at play here that I'm not privy to or aware of. This is happening for a reason. and I'm going to be okay, regardless of what it is. I know this is working for me, or this is happening for me, not to me.
Yeah.
And when I adopted that mindset after about a week, maybe more, of messaging people back, because I've never had that much hate, like hundreds of people. And there was this one woman who's like, I actually don't know her name, short blonde hair, and a lot of people refer to her as a feminist Nazi. She made a post about me, and then that
Clementine
had,
Ford.
yeah. And then I even had girls from when I was a teenager that I'd been with, like getting on posts saying, I got with him and he's not one to say anything about body count. He slept with my friend. And I just went, like, so much of my personal life was just put out there. And I just thought, you know what? I can't do anything about this. It is what it is. And I just, it was, yeah, the hate I got was not pleasant. It's what you could imagine. I got it. But after a while, it just built thick skin. And I thought, fuck it. Like, doesn't matter. This will blow over in 2-3 weeks. And it did. 3-4 weeks later, I was like, gone. And the sooner I stopped replying to people, the quicker it seemed to go too, because,
Yeah, feeding the energy.
yeah, I was asking for more of it. And I was just, I'm a big justice head at heart. Like, I think if something's unjust, fix it. But there's certain things that are just out of your control, and that was one of them. But like I said, I learned so much out of it. A lot of other good stuff happened. I ended up on podcasts, got clients out of it. And then I had quite a few women actually reach out and say, hey, I've watched a lot of your stuff for a while. I can tell you were taken out of context. It sucks. Hope you're doing okay. Just so you know, there is a woman here supporting you and cheering you on. I was like, oh, and I got a few of them. And I went, fuck, this is strangers saying this. So, when good comes, so does bad. When bad comes, so does good.
Yeah.
No.
Intense baptism of fire, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. It was a hell of an experience. Not the one I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I think that happens often when there's like these big catalyst moments in our lives. Like, I feel like there's often these things where you think it's going to be something and then it turns out to be the complete opposite, but it almost needed to be that in order to get you where you needed to go. And it's like, oh, if it had gone the other way, maybe it could have been like this. But, 10 years from now, you'll probably look back and be like, oh, if it had gone the other way, it probably wouldn't have worked out in my favor, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one like many good things came out of it. Connections, friends, connecting with other coaches in the space, a few business deals. Like I made money out of it. Like I got paid good money. Clients come on, what I do isn't cheap. And they're like, yeah, I want to work with you. You seem to get the therapeutic side of it and you don't fluff about. You just get to the point and you look at the reality of it. And another thing it did is like it led to me, being seen by other journalists as well, who actually looked into my work and said, wow, what you do is amazing and you're world class at what you do. And so I've been published in things like MSN and Digital Journal for actually being a top 10 coach and whatnot. And without SBS putting my name out there a bit, that likely wouldn't have happened. So, yeah. And that's just some of the good that came from it. So I wouldn't go back and change it. Well, the only thing I would change is stop replying to people sooner. Yeah, like
Yeah,
don't
fair enough.
entertain the hate.
Just the block button is there for a reason. I use that liberally. I'm like, I've got no time for that. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Um, okay, so I was curious about this. Did you get a lot of support from people that you may not necessarily agree with? Like, for example, did you get a bunch of maybe like the hardcore red pill people who are a little bit misogynistic would be like, yeah, because they also misinterpreted you?
I definitely got a few. Not anything noteworthy though. I actually, the biggest bit of attention that I got was from women, the ones that weren't sending more hateful messages, actually reaching out saying, hey, I've watched a lot of your content and I actually agree with a lot of your message. So I actually appealed very surprisingly to a lot of women and my content skewed. I went from, you can look at your back end metrics of who watches your stuff and it was, I forget the exact ratios, but it was like a 60-40, sometimes 70-30 men to women. And after that, it's always been 50-50, if not more, on the side of women watching my content. And so, yeah, it just, I didn't appeal to anyone that surprised me. I didn't get too much red pill shit. I think any red pill stuff or heads that watched it and agree with me and then went on my page to watch the rest of my stuff would have very quickly realized, oh, I'm not
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
same wavelength as you. Like there's truth to the red pill stuff, but there's also truth to the polar opposite of that.
Yes.
And it's extremes are the problem. It's not the message, it's the extreme of that message. And then all also gets sacrificed in favoring that one fucking point.
Yeah. I did a podcast. Well, I was on a podcast years ago about Andrew Tate and about how he does that with content, like makes very broad statements. All cult leaders do this, where they make very broad statements. And then you go, oh, so good. I'm going to identify. You're going to be my public champion. I'm going to put all of my identity inside of you and I'm like you. But I can't speak out like you do. So you're going to do that for me. Great. That's my person. What he says, I think. And generally those statements are pretty broad and most people will agree. And, then it gets niche and more niche and more niche. And then before you know it, he's saying stuff that you don't agree with, but you've already told everyone that that's your spokesperson. That's your public figure. That's the person that you're just like. And you're like, oh, I'm in a hard position.
One of the biggest problems we face this day and age is the fact that people have the inability to differentiate or to be able to select pieces and say, I identify with that, but not that. Like some of the stuff Andrew Tate, for example, has said is fucking brilliant and world class. And then he said some absolutely moronic, stupid shit.
Yeah.
And people need to learn, like, you can support someone's message and not necessarily them.
Yeah.
You can pick and choose what works from people. And that's where a lot of people go wrong, I think, is they see someone do something bad and think everything they do is bad.
Yeah.
No, they're a human who has both qualities, and you've happened to see the worst side of it. There's also good people that are not good people, but people have seen them do good things or they have a public perception that allows them to be perceived in that way. But in reality, they're doing horrible things. And people
Obama's a
just don't know
classic
how
example of that.
able to look at someone as both good and bad. It's either all good or all bad. It can't be different attributes under the one umbrella. It's a very extremist view on things a lot of people have. And we're in pretty extreme times, so it makes sense.
Yeah. I think we used to be the kind of society that would be very happy to kind of say, oh, like my neighbor is different to me and I'm still friends with them. But now it's almost like embarrassing. It's like an insult. Like, oh, you're friends with someone like that. It's not a good thing. So yeah, I don't know. It's tricky because I don't know. How do you fix that?
How do you fix that? You could attack that from a lot of angles. I think a lot of people are sensitive, for sure. And we talked about attention spans earlier. And in fact, I talk a lot about this with my clients now about the whole stimulus response piece. A lot of us like to think, we're human, we're smart, we're more intelligent than animals. But as time's gone on, the average person has become more and more like an animal than what a human was years prior, because this thing of stimulus response used to be that. We used to be able to have some form of stimulation externally, which would cause us to perceive it or experience it, and then we'd respond and react to it. But we'd think about it or we'd choose. And now it's almost like an immediate reaction. We don't have a response, we have a reaction. And that's happened as a result of social media and a number of other things. But we're essentially just conditioned robots or primed nervous systems acting out of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn
Yeah.
at all points in time. And to fix it is no small task. Like, it involves actively increasing the concentration muscle of your mind, which involves usually getting bored and focus and persistence and failure, like anything, and then seeing minimal results after all this effort, only for it to take longer than you expected and eventually get to a point where you regain your sense of self and ability to create a gap between stimulation and response.
Yeah.
And think about how you want to react and not be offended by the smallest of things, which is another big problem that needs fixing, which is people's inability to be upset or debate without turning into life and death.
Mm. It's like we're very, very much operating on the mammalian brain, like the primal brain that is
Yeah.
so responsive rather than the articulate progressive, like actually progressive, not like politically progressive, but actually progressive brain that makes us humans, that makes us apart from that animal world.
And well, the prefrontal cortex shuts off when we get triggered, or when there's
Yeah.
some sort of a threat that our nervous system perceives as threatening.
Yeah.
We have one of the forced survival responses, and then we tend to not think critically, and that's how, you know, after an argument with a partner or a situation at work, we look back and regret how we reacted because we didn't act consciously, we acted
Yeah.
animalistically out of old patterns from the past, which people normally don't want to repeat their past because it wasn't how they'd like it to be. But because it's left unhealed, unresolved, and they don't have a gap between stimulus and response,
Mm.
they just keep repeating more of the same, and then they repeat their past, maybe in
Mm.
different ways, but the end result or end feeling always ends up being the same.
Yeah. It's I think it's the backwards coming forwards, if that makes sense. No, it's like we've gone backwards in order to go forwards, and it's like we need to go back in order to go forwards.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. We need to really get back to what we used to be like, where we were. I think about like universities and what they used to be, and that there was real debate there. There was really opposing views and opinions, and this was where like you came with all of your ideas and you were met with like, okay, but I have the experience now, and give me your ideas and I'm going to tell you what life is really about. And then you got to like wrestle with all of that, and people were philosophical and were making art and poetry and were writing novels that were this thick, because they had so much to say and so much passion and thought. And it wasn't just like 15 seconds worth of it. It was like years worth of work that would take up all of their time. And it was really complex and really nuanced. And we've just lost that. We've just so lost it. And people are so quick these days to just end relationships over the slightest thing. The slightest thing is just like, oh, I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. Like no one knows how to stick anything out. No one has any discipline. No one knows how to fight for anything anymore. Or to like be uncomfortable in a relationship. Either I find that people are like constantly uncomfortable. They just are very uncomfortable all the time in their relationship and don't say anything, and they just keep going along, and they spend years resenting and hating their partners, but just being together for the sake of it because they don't know any other way. Or they're just next, 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 and don't know how to be with themselves. It's these dichotomies are just the chasm is getting huge.
Very much extremes.
Yeah.
And it's true, like everyone's a narcissist. And
Yes, exactly.
then there's the other extreme where, yeah, people, instead of fighting or running, they just fawn or freeze and they tolerate intolerable behavior for months or years until eventually the threshold gets crossed and then they react. And usually it's when they react, it's much worse
Yeah.
because it's sort of bottled up. But yeah, it's the more we progress in some ways, like technologically, the more we regress in other ways, like emotionally and intellectually and relationally, I believe.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of people these days are wanting to be people pleasers because they don't want to offend anyone. They don't want to get cancelled. Like kids these days are not dancing when they go out to clubs because they don't want to be recorded and made fun of. Like you were really in the fire of all of that. You've been at like the worst end of that. You've copped it all. And like you're still here. You're fine. There's a level of resilience that comes from that. But people are so resistant to doing anything slightly uncomfortable, and they just want to make sure everyone's happy and don't have anyone hate me. And then this people pleaser that actually, and this is often a hard truth for a lot of people pleasers to swallow, which is actually very selfish. It's like such a self-serving behavior. then, like you said, it builds up, builds up, builds up, and the resentment comes, and then it's like they're quite dangerous people because they can come out sideways, and it's like
Hmm.
years and years of repression because they haven't met and faced the darkness or the monster inside of them or like the violence that is contained within them. They've ignored it and suppressed it and repressed it, and
Yeah,
then it leaks out.
that's it, and you're right. It's one of the worst. In fact, what I'll say is they think they're nice. People pleasers, they're nice within a certain realm, yeah. But that niceness always comes with a cost.
Yes.
And usually it's in the form of a covert contract, which we've probably all heard. You know, if I do X amount of stuff for you, then I expect you to do this to me, but it's unspoken. And then when you don't do it to me, I'll tolerate it because I'm nice and I love you and I'm going to give more to you. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to pronounce that. You should just know that. And I'm giving and I'm giving and I'm giving. And this, yeah, there's a limit, there's a threshold on everything where they start. What depends on the strategy of survival. Do they fight? Do
Mm.
they run? Do they freeze? Do they fawn? Typically, they'll start saying, "Oh, you didn't notice this, or you didn't notice that," and trying to get attention, and then that's unattractive. And then if it's a man doing this, and the woman gets deterred by it, then he gets more resentful because it's like, "Hold on, I've loved you all this, and now you're pulling back. If anyone should be pulling back, it's me." And there's a
Yeah.
vicious cycle happens, and yeah, people pleasing is a self-fulfilling process, prophecy that leads to more of the problems that led to you thinking pleasing people would fix it in the first place. It The only way to stop the pattern is to like check out of it completely and be willing to shake up feathers and get used to the uncomfortable fact that there is always going to be discomfort in life.
Mm.
And that's a universal truth I talk a lot about. It's in my book, and it's something I talk about with most of my clients. Is like this very few constants in life. There's a few, but two of which is pain and change. Pain in the
Mm.
form of discomfort, growth, stretching, something happen as a result of, or you want to achieve something, you need to be disciplined in certain ways. It's a form of pain. But if you don't discipline yourself, then the pain's going to be different. Pain of regret or pain of, being overweight from not working out at the gym. There's always a form of pain. It's just getting comfortable with that. And
Mm.
nice or people pleasers are great at avoiding pain
Mm.
and kicking the can down the road.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's that, what's that saying? It's like working out is hard, but being fat is hard. You got to choose your hard.
Yeah,
Everything in life is just about choosing your hard, like which you don't get to opt out of discomfort. It's
yeah.
going to come and life will come for you no matter which way you go. It's just like, how do you want to go about this? Do you want to
Mm,
face it head on, or do you want to like take the back road and hit every bump in the road on the way there?
yeah. And this is one of the biggest problems in
Choice.
society is we've bubble wrapped everything,
Yeah.
and we've allowed kids to think they are whatever they feel like they are in the moment, and people support that, and that's a fucking mental illness if you ask me. Like,
Yes.
and to allow kids to go through life without consequences is a disservice, I think, because that's not how reality works.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a lot of people this day and age don't understand there's consequences to actions. And it's not facing consequences that has led to all this other pain that we now face in different forms. It's not in the, we might not be getting offended or we might not be getting physically hurt, but the pain shows up in some way, shape, or form, usually in a way that you can't directly tell, which is the result of avoiding this pain back here.
Mm.
But it always comes in some way, shape, or form. That's probably another law. The
Yeah.
more you delay the pain, the more interest it will accrue, and the more it will come out of the blue later.
What you
And it
resist
does,
persists.
100%.
Yeah. It's such a sick symptom. Like it will make you sick. Like in so many different ways. Like that avoidance of everything. Avoidance of like I feel like 2020 was such a great litmus test for all of this because for a lot of people they saw what was happening.
Mm,
They didn't agree with it, but if they said anything, if they spoke up, if they, went to a certain side, they would have to then open Pandora's box. They would have to then look at everything and they'd have to look at how they were complicit in it. And that was just too much, So it's like avoid, just go along to get along. Let's just do it and get everyone like out of lockdown. let's just get it and like, it's not that big a deal. Like all the excuses that come out of it. And then now it's like, well, I didn't really want it anyway, but I had to
Mm,
get it. Like lots of different excuses in order to avoid the fact that you were going against, you were self-betraying. And that's
mm.
actually where the pain is. You're like, oh, the government did this, the government did that, these people did this. No, you betrayed yourself. And that's what actually hurts, is because you couldn't have the kahunas to like go, okay, I'm going to look at all of this because it's a lot. It is a lot. And like I have compassion. It's a lot. It's like it's a tough awakening to get. Anyone who's been through it, we know we've been there. Like it sucks. But you got to do it. Like we've all got to do it at some point. And then you realize we never stopped doing it. And that also sucks. That's like the worst one of them all when you're like, oh, I thought I was healed and I'm not healed. Now I have to keep going. This is
Well,
going to happen for the rest of my life. This is
see that
shit.
as much as, and I do agree with that. That is such a common pattern, and that's like with what I do. That's what I've realized. Pain's always a constant, but it doesn't need to be the pain of hurt. It can be the pain of growth or stretching. Like trees are constantly breaking and stretching pieces, or when we're growing and expanding as kids and teenagers, we have growing pains. It's a
Mm.
result of growth and being where you want to be or having something greater than what you currently do.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a point. I detoured too much. You were saying about how we avoid pain. Oh, and healing. Sorry, I got distracted there. With the healing side of it, I see a lot of people constantly thinking that they're going to go through pain and healing, that this healing journey doesn't end. I'm at this point in time in my life against that idea, and I think healing can end and get to a point. It's just there's a structure to healing, and no
Mm.
one knows, well, not no one, but very small percentage of the population understands the structure and the process of actually healing and getting through to completion, where the problem actually stops.
Mm.
And the reason, we're always feeling we're going through patterns or repeating cycles,
Mm.
whether it's over months or years, is because there's a root cause or an underlying problem, which is very hard to fucking get to. Like plant ceremonies don't get you there. They can
Mm.
help and it can, but for the majority, it doesn't. Same as therapy. Like most of my clients have been in therapy from 5 to 20 years.
Mm.
And in 1 or 2 sessions, they go, fuck, I didn't understand this about myself over this time. And I also didn't know you can actually just clear it like we did.
Mm.
And it's, yeah, there's misconceptions and misunderstanding about healing too. Like we can heal.
Mm.
It's going to be more painful than you expect and probably longer than you expect. But there is a process which, if followed, gets you to where you want to be, where the problem isn't just constantly persisting or being managed.
Mm. How do you feel about new level, new devil? I love all the sayings. They're so easy to remember.
I
Because for
think
me,
there's
that's,
truth
I
to
would
it.
agree, like that healing can be, you can heal, absolutely. But I often find like once you fix one thing, it's like, okay, there's
Yeah.
something else then that
Well,
pops up.
this is usually a part of the structure, right? This four, like how everyone says, if you keep attracting that, or if you are
Mm.
irritated by someone, that's a reflection of you to some degree. As true as that can be, and as often as that's the first truth, there's three other truths. There's four in total that it could be, or four different types of reflections, I should say, that any given pattern or problem you have in your life could be. And the whole new level, new devil thing is true when we do overcome a particular problem. Like let's say, uh, uh, like an existing client, for example, she kept attracting a shitty type of man, and anyone would say, well, you're attracting that. Why?
Mm.
Yes, she was, but it's not because she was a shitty person. In fact, she's lovely. She's one of the most giving people I know.
Mm.
But it was one of the other problems that usually precede after that, which is where she judged it. She held a judgment, and that's actually what we judge, we attract as well.
Mhm.
Whether it's a good judgment or a bad judgment doesn't matter. It's just whether we judge it is what determines whether we attract it or not. And if we attract it on a very spiritual level, you can go down that path and explain it in that way. But
Mhm.
in a more simple and grounded way to explain it is our reticular activating system sets a number of filters in place to either avoid or attract that same thing that we judge. Regardless of whether it's avoid or attract, it presupposes that it's there or present to be avoided or attracted or brought in. And so if it's important to us and we judge it or holds weight in our nervous system, it means
Mm.
it's a familiar part of our environment, and we always recreate what we are familiar with.
Mm.
And so the sheer act of judging something is a problem a lot of the time, which is the thing that a lot of people struggle to grab onto, because there's certain things that are bad.
Mm-hmm.
But if you judge it too much and you hold a negative energy around it, that in a spiritual term is a magnet to attract more of that to judge.
Mm-hmm.
On a biological level, you're conditioning your nervous system to see more of that and focus on that. That's level 2, or mere reflection number 2. Then there's 3 and 4 still, which, yeah, when you overcome a problem in a particular way, usually there's still some lingering evidence of it, that problem within you, just in a very different way. And so we're not necessarily facing a new devil. It's the same devil dressed in different clothes that you didn't fully kill off.
Mm.
Yeah.
Get to the root cause. Yeah. I am struggling with the word judgment because I think that there's so many different definitions of judgment. I do resonate with what you're saying, and I do agree. Especially when you said when it matters to you, when it holds weight to you in one way or another, when you give meaning to it, then it's like the attraction. But for me, I'm actually really pro judgment, because I think judgment is how we make any decision in life. Is judgment in that way. But I understand that when some people use judgment, they mean like a moral good or bad to it. And I think,
Assigning right or wrong.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is
Which
like,
has truth to it too, though. Like that's the thing. That's this. Yeah.
yes. Did you see I don't know, it was released today, the Aubrey Marcus DiMartini
I need to watch it.
conversation?
I'd seen it
Did you
before.
see the trailer? I haven't watched it, but I saw the trailer, and it's exactly this conversation.
Right.
So,
Yeah. See, I don't agree with DiMartini's like middle neutral ground of like the moment you judge something, it's, if it's good, it's infatuation, and it means that you've displaced your power out of you somehow, and if it's bad, then you're looking at it as bad. And I've seen DiMartini live when he talked about this horrific tragedies that go on in the world, and you can find a positive in there. My belief is that basically whatever you believe, if you believe it enough and act in accordance with it enough, you'll find enough to support that. And a lot of his practices, as much of a genius as he is, and as much as he's used his principles to create very powerful results, just as many other principles attacking the same problem from a very different angle also would have solved them. And so it's not so much the idea of neutrality and, there should never be judgment. I think it's more about like the angle of what you believe and what you hold and harbor to be true will be true. And he thinks, if it's not bad, you can go in and neutralize that thought inside of you. And then when you neutralize it, you're not judging it, you're not attracting it.
Yeah.
So a lot of what he does, from how I see it, is like reframing how the nervous system feels about something. And when you change that, or the meaning of it, the emotions also go, because emotion and meaning are inherently tied together. And so the principle, which is what I like to work on, is remove the judgment, be at peace with it. And if you don't like it, so like you can decide not to invest into or put your time towards that, like anything. And you do that by getting away from it, not standing there and pointing at it saying you're bad and judging it and spending all your time and energy there looking at it. That's where people get lost. Like I got lost there with COVID, going through that. I was like sharing stuff all the time, and I was so focused on trying to perpetuate the message, it's bad, don't do it, that I just got negative, and I was like, fuck, I need to stop.
100%. That's what politics is all about. Like that whole judgment, orange man bad, everyone else good.
Yeah, and that's again one of the big problems, to bring it back to what we were saying earlier, like in the world, is this just so much divisiveness and a lack of, like, an inability to be able to look at something critically in the moment for what it is, other than just saying, nope, that was a bad politician who proposed that really good idea, so that means the idea is shit.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's the tension of opposites, like people just they can't hold both sides without collapsing internally. And I think it's because they have no internal structure. So like I was saying before, where they outsource their identity to other people, like whether it's Tate or Trump or whoever it is. And it happens on both sides. when they're not strong in themselves, where you can be like, I'm going to take that from this person and take that from that person, and I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, I don't agree with that, but I also don't think that you're an evil person for proposing that.
Mm.
It's because you have your own internal compass. You're not being led by external factors. And I think that's really difficult to cultivate in today's world. Like,
Mm.
what does it mean to be yourself today? Like, how do you even find yourself in a screen world? It would be
Mm.
really, really difficult for a lot of people. And for people who didn't grow up with very strong personalities, like I'm a really strong personality. I've always been like this. And, you know, I grew up in the 90s and then 2000s. And I came in the time when screams, I've seen it all. But even before that, I was quite stubborn and quite opinionated. So it wasn't hard for me to kind of find my own footing. But I can imagine for those who were a little bit softer and who don't have that kind of personality type and who were a little bit more amenable and a little bit more sensitive to other people's feelings and wanting to be a little bit more caring about how everyone else felt, to then have been bombarded with everybody else's opinions and everybody else's feelings, would just be overwhelming.
Mm.
It would be almost too much. How do you, and then you got kids these days, they've never known any different.
Yeah, and this is again that you've heard that saying, strong men build good
Yeah.
times, weak men, that cycle. And we're at the back end of the cycle of having, hard times from weak men.
Yeah.
And kids are being raised without morals and values and principles of like clearly right and wrong.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's this very like life is multiple shades of gray, but there also is black and white at the end of that too.
Hmm.
And we lack it's interesting. It's like we have black and white opinions in where it matters least. And like
Yes.
it makes us so divisive, but when we need to be malleable and open and be able to contemplate and conceptualize, we're fucking so shades of grey. Or sorry, when we need to be foundational and principle driven and certain on something, there's like such a wishy-washy inability to solidify an opinion. This is what I stand for.
Mm.
But if it's a vague generalized term, people can agree with that because I guess it's safer. That's probably what it is. There's
Mm.
this whole principle of chunking up. Like if I say I stand for, like if I like BMWs, someone can disagree with that. Whereas if I say I like cars, it's a lot harder to disagree with that. It's more
Mm.
relatable. Whereas if you say transport's a good thing, which is an even higher chunked up
Mm.
version of communication, it's easy to communicate or agree. And it's the higher and more vague you are, the easier agreeability is. And so people just like to stay vague or generalize
Mm.
terms. And that's dangerous in certain aspects. And it makes for a very weak society because people don't know who they are or what they stand for, and they're unable to put their foot down on something. And the result is they end up like a ship out at sea without a rudder or a fucking flag or an anchor. And they just go wherever the wind and ocean takes them.
Yeah. Well, it's so primal as well because it's tribal. It's unsafe to be outside of the tribe and say something different. But when your tribe doesn't have an identity, when your tribe doesn't have
Mm.
rules and values and boundaries and doesn't have any principles, it's like chaos. It's a free
Yeah.
for all in there. And then the
And it takes a
strongest,
mind of its own too.
100%. And then
Yeah.
you've got the people who are bad people and manipulators and will take advantage of that. And that's what's happening right now. It's like all of those, like you may be the good person in that system who's just wanting the good thing. And I see that with a lot of people. They really have good hearts and they want the best for everybody,
Mm.
even if it's like we're talking about immigration or something like that, like generally they just want everyone to be happy and they want everyone to have nice things and they want everyone to be fed and they don't understand how bad
Which
things
we
can
all
happen in the
want.
world.
That's the thing, we all want that.
Exactly. But
Mm.
then there are people who are a little bit more realistic and are like, that's great, but there's also these bad things that happen, and these are the people who would take advantage of these people. And this is
Mm.
probably not going to turn out the way that you want it to turn out. Like, And it's very difficult to have those kind of tough conversations because the world is, we're getting bombarded so much with so much horror and so much
Mm.
devastation, which we're not meant to see. Like, as our brains have not caught up to technology. We're still like way, way back. We're still
Yeah.
very primal in our responses in the world. We're not meant to see all the stuff that's happening all over the world, devastating stuff. And so we're like, no, can we just look, can it all just be happy rainbows, please? Can we all just, I don't
Yeah.
want to look at more horrible things that are going to happen.
Most people's nervous systems are on just
They're
high
shot.
alert and stuck in some sort of a survival response.
Hmm.
Women in particular, like this is both genders, but women being the more emotionally driven out of it,
Yeah.
just like yeah, they don't realize they're operating just out of fucking fight or flight, or they're frozen, and that's why they can just operate and go emotionless and just they're okay. And I gotta manage and the kids and work and the husband and fucking, it's like, have you stopped and
Mm.
breathed? And typically, it's with women in particular, we just do a hypnosis session.
Mm.
There's a 5 to 10 minute process of taking the body to a deep place just to relax, and often just that before you even get to the change work process and ripping old things out and putting new things in.
Mm.
There's tears, or there's like, oh, I feel so amazing, and it's like the body's just actually relaxed. It's all that's happening.
Yeah.
It's no massive therapeutic intervention. It's just, oh my God,
100%.
this is what it feels like to rest.
Yeah. They're like
Thanks for all
crying.
this change.
Oh
I'm
my
like, we're not
God.
even done it. Yeah, yeah. Or that's where finally, that's the other thing too. The nervous system has a safe place to finally let all the suppressed stuff come
Yeah.
up. And so yeah, the tears flood.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm crying. It's like, I think you do. You just
Yeah.
you can't intellectualize it, but there's so much there, isn't there? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the with the Epstein files that came out recently, I put up a post and I was like, listen, I'm telling you, if you're a mother, do not look at this. Like, you don't need to know it.
Mm,
I'm telling you, as someone who has been into this stuff for years, you don't need to see it. And I'm not going and looking at it. Like, there will be
mm,
people who will look at it for you. You little Sally in your town with your 3 kids, it's not on you to look at
mm,
this. Just protect your nervous system right now. Don't open up that image. Don't buy into, like, you don't want to see that. It's not going to do anything good for you right now. And you can just avoid that. It's actually okay. It doesn't make you a bad person who doesn't want to know anything. Like, go and hug your kids, go and play with them instead. That's actually going to be a much better, like, spent time spent for you. And I had so many women reaching out and they were like, thank you so much, for saying that and for sharing that. And I was like, yeah, like, it's okay.
mm. Yeah, it's
You,
not gonna change anything for you knowing what's in there. Only negative will come from it.
yes,
Like it's
yes,
bad, and it pays to be informed, 100%.
yes,
But there's a line where
there's a level.
yeah, where it becomes just crap that you're putting into the garden that is your mind.
Yes. Exactly, exactly that. And I say that, like, I've said that about a lot of things as well. Uncomfortable for some women where I'm like, those smut books that you're reading, not doing you any favors in your relationship realm. They don't like that. They love their smut books. I'm like, but it's true, especially with the one in particular, my biggest issue is the ones that link like violence and
Mm.
romance.
Yeah, which
I'm
is
like,
90% of women's romance novels.
yeah. And there is a level of their nervous system, right, that actually craves the lack of control so they can relax, so they can release. But the way that they're programming their brains in order to receive that is just wild to me. I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, you're
Mm.
you're literally brainwashing yourself into the very thing that you, as a quote unquote feminist, would be raging against if it ever
Yeah.
happened in real life. Like, I can't marry the two about how they can do that, but they do. There's a lot of things that we do as women. We just keep pushing and pushing and pushing those boundaries, and yeah, it's difficult.
Mm. Yeah, it can seem very paradoxical, and I can empathize with a lot of people who don't understand that world, wouldn't get it. But it does show a lack of like this. I talk about these things called core feminine needs. One of them is variety. If women don't have it, they'll find it in unhealthy ways,
Mm.
and or they'll create it through some form of stimulation in their environment. And most men, to I guess give women credit, like aren't great at creating variety or stimulation in their environment in a positive and meaningful way. So yeah, where do you go? Or a book, and then it goes to an extreme version of what they want, which is to be able to surrender and be led and be, ravished and loved and passionately cared about and not have to think about anything and just be given to. But it then takes an extreme to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to always be some fantasy land because it couldn't be in reality that
Yeah.
that could ever exist either. It's very much like it's porn for like what it does to the brain, like what porn does to the male brain. This is doing very similar things to the female brain because it's you're going to want that stimulation more and more and more, and it's going to have to be more and more extreme in order to arouse the same response in your body. And so it's going to get to the point where you're going to be looking at some stuff that you might have been shocked by when you first started reading it.
Yeah. And that's, I speak to women who get very comfortable and open up about their situation and where they're at. And yeah, that's happened for a few of them. They're like, I can't believe this is what does it for me now.
Yep.
Like, yeah. And then it affects, it's not that bad in itself. Like, I'm not one to shame, but that's not the problem. The problem is what that does to the brain and how it conditions it in other ways and how it creates perceptual filters, which you see the rest of the world through,
Yes.
including men, including sex, which is a massive part of life. And yeah, just it has implications that are not anywhere to be warned about.
There's a lot of memes and reels and stuff about like, why would I ever date anyone when I can just have my book boyfriend? Like it's this like intentionally being single because the book boyfriend's better. It's like escapism, this total avoidance of reality because like that sounds in the same way that, you look at a porn star for a man looks at this perfectly surgically shaped woman. That's not a real woman. That's not reality. And that sex isn't reality either. This woman is going to read about this man who is not a real man and doesn't act like a real man would act and is not the reality of men. And it's an uncomfortable thing when then you're faced with this like pretty human reality where like people make mistakes and people aren't saying the right things all the time and people aren't billionaire fairies with dragons at their end. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's just
and a
like,
big
oh,
dedicated room in the house for
yeah, like boring. Why would I ever go there when I could just live in my imagination? But I'm sure you would make fun of like the guy who's playing video games 24 hours a day in his imagination where he's like some superhero shooting up and saving all the people. It's the same thing. It's like this fantasy realm, which is fine for a little bit, but when you condition the brain that way and it gets to like interacting with reality and you can't do that because you're so in that, it's a difficult marry.
it's an unfortunate reality women. It's a reality women have turned to, I think, because men are not. It's a very blanket statement, but in general, men weren't living up to the standard. But then, so women found this as a coping mechanism, but then it became a perpetuating factor that worsened the problem again. It's
Yes.
like a cycle,
Why do you
as
think
most things
men
are.
got less romantic, less spontaneous? Spontaneous, not a real word.
I immediately what comes to mind is the feminist movement, and as a large contributing factor, I think there's many factors. I think men became afraid at a certain point to be manly towards a woman in general. I know, like, I grew up with a single mother, and I watched five different father figures throughout my early life be abusive towards her and all sorts of horrible things. And so I detested and rejected a lot of what was masculinity for the first good chunk of my life, and was Mr. People Pleaser in such a nice, loving way. And, if it's for a woman, I'll make it happen and do it because they deserve it. And as nice and as amazing as I just wasn't as like I wasn't the embodiment and the epitome of what a woman really wanted, which was a certain degree of certainty and leadership, which involves being able to be uncomfortable and have conflict in a healthy and meaningful way, which a nice guy rejects and just doesn't have. And so there's no polarization, there's nothing to grip onto as a woman too, because you don't know what a man stands for. How can you be safe with him? How can there be any form of consistency, which is what leads to safety? And I think it was this weird pattern and combination of things that happened all at a very similar time and then only got worse, where men became afraid to did the wrong thing by a woman and then get judged by it or for it. And then I think women got more empowered, which as they should. Like, I think there was definitely a lot of suppression, but it also was contextual. And with that empowerment came a lot of good, but also a lot of bad, where women stopped appreciating the reality of men and what men go through and what men are willing to do for women and how they want to do things for women. And because I can do it, why would I need a man to do it for me? What could a man offer then? And if a man can't offer much and he's got no spine behind him and he's wanting to just please her and do whatever is necessary, he just becomes this unattractive, dull thing to her. And then she goes to an extreme. She looks for the arsehole, or she looks for the rare guy that is 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 that does actually have masculine traits, and then she's willing to compromise her values and morals for him. He goes, I don't want to date you, but we will sleep together. She'll do that, and then he'll sleep with multiple women, and he might even be honest about it. And they all know, but they'll tolerate it. But then there's the majority of nice guy men going, how come fucking he gets this and should this for him but not me? And it's this weird frustration and this cycle that just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, 100%. I think the that whole idea of like, what do men, I saw a reel on this today where a woman was like, what does a man have to offer? We have all of the things that they have. We can provide for ourselves. We can do all the things for ourselves. We don't need them. So what do they have to offer? That means we have to judge them on their behavior, and they just keep falling short because they have shitty behavior. And I was like, oh, this is such a harsh way to look at the world. Like,
Whoever wrote that will definitely look at the world in that way and attract men
yeah,
like that for sure.
yeah. I mean, I I'm a, I was very much like that kind of feminist back in the day. It was very much like, if you can do it, I can do it too, because I really wanted to be respected by men. So I often was like, oh, I see how men respect other men who meet them on their level. I'm going to come up here and then they'll respect me and then they'll meet me. That was my thinking. And so I did. I was like playing with the boys all the time. And then, I had like something quite traumatic happen to me about 8 years ago, and I needed people and I couldn't do everything myself. And I completely fell apart and I needed help and I
Yeah,
needed support. And it really, really humbled me. It like
would have
totally
been hard.
broke me down as a person, and I had to rebuild myself. And this is how I've like come to be in this field, was through that process of just being like shattering everything that I thought that I knew and having to like pull out what's the truth in here and what's like the lie, the comfortable lie that I told myself. And that's one of the biggest things that I've told people. It's like, you need people. You can't do this alone, especially women. Like, you
Yeah,
cannot have a baby by yourself. You can't make one by yourself. You can't raise one by yourself. Even if you do IVF, you're still needing someone else to do that. If you have the baby, then how are you going to support it unless you are a mystery millionaire? You're going to have to go back to work, in which case you need someone else to take care of your child. You send them to daycare or preschool or whatever. Someone else is raising your child. You're not doing that. You're still using other people, and you're calling that empowerment and independence, but it's not independence. It's
it's more
actually,
separation.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's selective separation. And to really hit home what you're saying, because I really agree with it. It's this false idea of thinking you're independent and empowered when in reality it's just a different form of dependence or
yes,
interdependence. And that's one of the most uncomfortable things for all people to realize, but women in particular, especially one who grew up in a world of shitty men, is that, yeah, you need men for safety and men need women, and you need to learn to interdepend on someone or
yes,
people to some degree. You can't do it all yourself, and there's only a certain level of safety, which is like the number one core feminine need, which also comes in the form of consistency. There's only so far you can go with that by yourself and as a woman. And it's like, I used to say it's an unfortunate reality, but it's not. Like, it's how it was designed and intended. And
yes,
if you actually work in alignment with nature, it's actually the most beautiful thing. And a lot of women, I was going to say that I've helped like with work, but just outside of work too, love it when they can actually feel safe with a man and not have to do what they've always had to, because it then frees up capacity for more of what a woman actually likes, which is not what men can do. Like, there's a reason, like, just because you can do it, again, it doesn't mean that you should.
100%.
It's great to be able to, but does a woman want to go work on an oil rig to fucking do all that shit? Does she want to have to constantly plan ahead and think about all this stuff? No, women hate it. They love it when a guy goes, put this dress on, we're going here for dinner this night, it's a surprise, and, for the next 2 days, pack clothes for that too, because we're going somewhere. That's like, in the right conditions to a woman, it's like, oh my God, what? Like, how good? I just get to go enjoy life and soak it up. And that's beautiful, because that radiance and femininity that a woman taps into fuels the man, and then he wants to do more of it. And then there's balance. And as long as that balance is held, the relationship's healthy, and the woman's getting happier and the man's getting happier.
100%.
That's the problem. Society hates that balance and condemns it and makes it hard. And then you throw all the other shit on top of it. People's traumas, attachment comes in after a little period of time, and you start projecting, and we have a number of things to work against us to keep that balance in order.
Absolutely. I think a lot of women, if they listen to that, a bunch of women will be like, I wouldn't like that. I don't want to not know where I'm going. I don't want to do it. And it's because you don't feel safe.
Yeah.
If you felt safe, that would be a really nice, fun, exciting thing.
Hence,
But
with the right conditions present.
exactly.
And I've been single for a good period of my life, and in that period dated, and I consider myself a gentleman. Like, if I'm going to see a woman and be in her world, one of my primary or core rules is honesty, but also make sure she's better than what she was when I found her, or leave her better than I found her. Because if it's going to end, it needs to be good. So I would lead and be a gentleman and be honest and care and give. And there were certain women who many times said, I've never felt safe enough to just relax around another man and do this, or let him just tell me where we're going, what we're doing, without knowing it, and feel safe. And a lot of them prior to that, and I've talked to them about this, friends as well and clients, go, yeah, I wouldn't have allowed it, or thought I wanted that, or thought it was okay. But when you experience it and you're genuinely safe, which is a very fucking big word, especially in the world of a woman, you experience a very different reality, because your nervous system goes from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic, and it's a completely different hormone palette.
Yes.
And a woman's hormones is what drives the feelings, men too. But if you then all of a sudden feel completely different in your mind, soul, and body, you're going to think and act very different too. And then reality is going to be very different. And it's typically a lot more fucking enjoyable than being in survival mode. And yeah, if you get a dose of that, it's therapeutic to a woman. Like, masculinity and masculine provision done right in a woman's world is like medicine.
100%.
As is femininity, real, authentic femininity in a man's world.
Yeah. I think, I've said this often, like, men who say, like, the red pill men who will say something similar to what that woman said, where they're like, don't get married, bro. What do you need women for? Blah, 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 blah. Have never been with a good woman. Because if you really knew what a good woman could do for you, like, they're married men who are in happy marriages are happier, they live longer, they make more money.
10 years longer on average.
Yeah, and a lot more money too. Like, it's ridiculous. What a good woman can do for you is above and beyond anything you can imagine. Like, because you can't imagine it, because you're a man. You don't have that capacity as much as you want to, like, achieve and create and do all that kind of stuff. You can't get that. You can only get that from a woman. And for a woman to receive that kind of provision from a man, there's no way that she can feel willing. The reason she feels like, oh, I can't let go, I can't, like, let him lead, is because you're still in survival mode. You're still threat perceiving everywhere. Like, where is a threat? Where is a threat? Because you don't respect him enough as a man. You don't see him enough as a man that he's going to take care of you on the most basic primal level. Forget about the date or anything like that. Like, if something happens, he's not got it. So you can't relax. Yeah. And even whatever that something is. But if you were to get to that point where you had a man where you're like, he's got it. Oh my God, he's got it. Okay, cool. I can let go now. Like you said, it's the whole, she can't perceive what that would be like if she's never had it.
Yeah, it's like trying to explain oxygen or air to a fish that's never been out of the water. It's
exactly that. It's just impossible to describe, because it is so other. It is so not you, which is why I often say to people like, I don't have an inner masculine and that you don't have an inner feminine that you need to integrate. Yes, we have unhealthy and healthy parts of ourselves that we need to look at and integrate, sure. But there is something completely other to me that I cannot understand. And I kind of don't want to. I kind of love that it's this other thing that's a mystery that I get to go into the world of and experience. That is like the beauty of it. That's the polarity. I love to play in that. I don't necessarily need to find that in myself. And I don't think it is there. I think that it is the creation, that whole I don't need anyone else to create anything else. I think we do. And I think that's my personal belief is that's what humans are for. It's like we have this pole and together it makes the whole. That's what when we come together to make that beautiful creation, And so it's really hard concept to get into people's heads when they are still in like this fight or flight, or if they've never experienced like the softness of a woman, they've only ever experienced certain kind of women. It's really hard to explain to them and get them to understand that.
Yeah, it is. And
But that's your work, isn't it? That's what you do 24/7.
yeah, it's what I've written a near 400-page book on as well.
All right.
Yeah. A lot of what I do with men is teach them how to understand women. And I talk at it from an angle of like saying to them, there's the woman, there's her, and then there's her body. There's her nervous system, which is a mind of its own and is a lot of the time defined by the past and has lenses that she'll look at you through, which may not be true. But, there's the whole test thing, how the whole pickup industry says women will always test you.
Yeah.
I say, yeah, absolutely they'll test you, but it's not in the way you think. Like, no woman's maliciously fucking testing you, and she's a lot of the time not consciously going, I'm going to do this and do that, but subconsciously, almost all the time, her nervous system is scanning, is he safe? And it's a lot of men think, of course I'm safe, when in reality they're not, because they're thinking of physical safety. And that's only one of the three forms of safety for a woman. Her nervous system is going, okay, physically safe to some degree, yeah, tick. But then is there emotional and intellectual safety, which are two very real things to the brain. And it's what the limbic system and the neocortex is looking for. And most men don't exhibit displays of intellectual and emotional safety. And so her nervous system has two out of the three needs for safety unmet. And not only that, once all three, if you do manage to do physical, emotional, mental safety, you need to keep it consistent. Problem is most men equate, and women too don't understand that. Every time I say this to a woman, they're like, oh my God, it's so fucking true. Safety isn't the absence of danger, which is what we all think. It's about the presence of consistency. That's, if you think about that and really take it in, like it's huge. It explains the reason sometimes why women will stay in abusive or really unhealthy relationships, because there's some level of consistency to it and there's safety in that.
Yes.
And it's not that the environment is safe so much, but they're familiar with it. And what we're familiar with is what we've survived. And that's what our nervous system, or the female nervous system, is looking for, is not necessarily to thrive, but to survive. Survival is safety. And if we know this devil, better this devil than the unknown angel. So we'll recreate the same shitty environment and live in it because it feels familiar, therefore safe, because it's consistent.
Yeah.
And so yeah, men learn how to create consistency in a healthy way that provides all three levels of safety for a woman. 90% of the issues in a relationship dissipate. If as a woman you feel genuinely safe and connected to your man, and you sprinkle in some significance and variety, these other core feminine needs, those four needs there, a woman's head over heels in love. She falls more in love with time. Whereas what happens for most is over time, you see less and less consistency in the man. You see in public is one version, and then behind closed doors is a different version. And then he's usually got secret shit in the background that you find out about. And you see him when he's with a public group or a group of friends, which is a community life, which is his more egoic, boisterous version. You're like, where the fuck did this come from? And so as a woman, you're going, there's four versions of you at least. And I don't know which one to fucking love anymore and trust. You also said you would have done this and you've let me down. So now I've built up beliefs that I can't trust you in this degree. And then it just stacks and stacks and stacks. And a woman feels unsafe. And then he's like, you're pulling back when having sex as often. How can I have sex? I fucking feel like I'm in survival mode. And yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, she's just whinging at me about not taking the trash out. Like,
Yeah. That's
what's going
so
on there?
much
But
more
it's exactly, it's so much deeper than that. Yeah. And it's so hard to read people who also don't know themselves as well. People who don't understand what's actually going on for them, and they're just playing out like their childhood wounds and their patterns and whatever. They don't know themselves very well, and they can't articulate that. They can't really articulate. Like a lot of times, you sit down and have conversations, and I find men are bad at this, but women also. But you're like, what are you feeling, or what is actually going on for you right now? I don't know. Like I don't know something. It's just something, and you almost have to get really primal. Be like, okay, where in your body are you feeling this right now? Let's start there. Is there like a tightness in the chest? Is there like a headache, or what's actually happening? Because people are just so disconnected. They can't even figure out, like, oh, I feel really uncomfortable right now, or I feel distrust, or I feel
Mm.
betrayal, or whatever that is. There's no, there's just no language for that. There's no
Yeah.
understanding that they have, that where they can understand what that means and then be able to know what it means for themselves and then effectively and articulately communicate that to their partner
Yeah.
in a way that isn't blaming, that isn't shaming. That's just like, hey, this is my experience of what's happening, which is
Communi-
huge.
Communication is huge between couples, especially communication is already an issue between the sexes. But then you
Yes.
chuck in the fact that you're bringing to the table, which is like they hardly even know themselves and how to articulate the problem. It's fucking frustrating and
Yes.
tough. And the more you learn about how we work biologically and how communication should work and how it isn't, how
Mm.
far off from the blueprint of how it should be is, it's a miracle that we communicate as well as we do in this day and age. Most people, it's yeah,
The communication is um, primitive in
at
some
best.
ways. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny to me when I hear, because I've been at parties and things like that, or gatherings, shall we say, where, the women all go to the kitchen and the men are all out by the barbecue, and you hear the conversations that happen. And I hear some ways that women will talk to other women about their partners.
Mm.
And it is abhorrent. It is really abhorrent. And it's like other women agreeing and other women laughing. And I'm there going, oh my God. The communication is like, you can communicate this very articulately to your girlfriends. That's an
Mm.
interesting factor that I find is really like, how come you can talk about this and you can talk about the nuances and all like the little bits and pieces that you can pull apart to your girlfriends when you're shit talking your husband, but you can't sit down and have a conversation with him about it?
Yeah.
Have you told him this? Oh no, can't bring that up.
Yeah, and it's true, and
Wild.
there's a lot of reasons that is true because that's a common problem I see as well, where it's a very valid issue. Just go fucking tell the man, and if it's a good man, which that's a loaded term, he will want to solve the issue. But
Yeah.
therein lies a problem as well, is how most men communicate. Men try to fix, and that's the love language for men.
Mm,
Like, forget about the other five love languages. Like, just all men love through action and effort and doing.
mm,
Women too, but in different ways. And so sometimes the way he tries to fix or communicates his fix goes against one of the three forms of safety for a woman, which is emotional. So he
mm,
will invalidate her point by saying, "Oh, just do this," or "What about this?" or "I told you," or "I get it," but just and immediately as a woman's or to her nervous system, it's my emotional concerns, and this is what women need in this moment, and men don't get. It's one of the big things we talk about is she needs validation,
yeah.
and it's not I'm wrong, you're right. And it's not just to fucking appease her, it's to tell her brain biologically that the emotions you're feeling and the logic that led to them, I understand. And it's valid that you would feel this way based off thinking this. Doesn't mean that it's true what you think or it's necessarily right, but it's like, oh, it's valid that you feel this way if you thought I fucking was flirting with that girl. Of course,
I
that's
can see
actually
how
my
you got
fucking
here.
cousin. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit. Like I get it though. That would have felt really insecure and like upsetting for you. I get it, honey. A
Yeah.
woman, if a man can properly communicate, and there's a structured way to communicate that actually works with our biology, it's like biological communication, if you will, then it makes a woman feel safe to go have these conversations. But most women don't feel safe to go open up to their man, like we're suggesting, or like she can to her girlfriends, because he invalidates her, tries to fix when she just wants to be heard, And then even when he does hear it, even if he can repeat her whole problem word for word
Mm.
and understands it better than her, she still feels unheard because his inability to communicate in the way her biology needs.
Mm.
There's that, and then a lot of the time too, you throw in men's insecurities and their inability to stand up and remain consistent so she can rely on him to be a certain way. The fact that he's probably uncomfortable voicing his true preferences and opinions, she doesn't know what he's going to get, or she has a preconceived idea of how he'll react, and she's like, I don't want
Mm.
that, so why would I tell him? And so that's one of the big problems is men not making it a safe environment for her woman to come to. But even that, when you fix that, usually then there's still the trauma rooted in the woman where she just manages to find a way to feel unsafe, even when there's nothing unsafe, because that's what she's familiar with. So she scans for it and finds it and then believes it.
Mm.
It all comes back to like traumas, just riddling and shaping our fucking perception of the world, unfortunately, a lot of the time.
100%. There's even, that whole concept of falling in love with your partner every day because they're a different person every day, like looking at them with generous eyes, with new eyes, and like, I think that you're going to react like this, but I actually don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and giving them an opportunity to step into something and step up, to meet you where you're at. It's a hard concept because you do have to push past all of those traumas and all of those fears that are like coming up, going, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. I told you it's going to end up like this.
Yeah.
All of those little nagging voices. You've got to be like, well, how will I get a different result if I don't do anything different, if I don't create the opportunities in which that environment can thrive? How do I meet that? I had a conflict with a friend recently, and I thought, my instinct, I was like, I'm done. You've told me what you really thought about me, which is like a core thing for me from being bullied in childhood. My thing is like, nobody really likes me. They're just pretending. And so she said some really harsh things to me when she was really upset. And I thought, there it is. That's how you really feel. You know, now I can never trust you. And I had to like, okay, okay, we've got to catch that. Now I have
That's
to have a
huge that you can
conversation
do
with her.
that. That's
It's
that's
years
most
of,
women that I work with. That's their thing. It's like when something happens and there's valid evidence that it's true as well in that circumstance,
mm.
it becomes law. And
No,
then,
well, I have 6 friends as psychotherapists. They would never let me get away with that.
yeah,
I've
that's
done years of work. But, I had to then go, okay, now I have to have a conversation with her. Now I have to be uncomfortable. Now I have to tell her I feel really hurt. I feel really betrayed.
mm,
And like, we're okay. I'm getting like, I'm still here, but it's going to take me a little while to trust you again. And that's just where we're at. And I just want to be honest with you. I'm not going to pretend and be like, everything's fine.
mm,
You said these really harsh things. And she was like, I did say those really harsh things. I don't even really remember saying them. I was in like she was in her primal, attack.
mm,
And she's like, I don't believe that they're true. I just said them to be hurtful, basically. And I had to be like, oh, okay, how do I feel about that?
yeah.
How do I feel about someone who does that? It's
Thank
all
you
of
for
this stuff.
apologizing, but at the same time, fuck.
Yeah, because now I'm like, how do I trust this person? But also, we're all like that. We've all got bits of us that come out sideways when we're under pressure. And would I want someone to be forgiving of me? Do I throw away 15 years of friendship? It's so complex. It's never just black and white to have to, but I had to be uncomfortable. I really did not want to have this conversation with her. I was like,
Mm,
don't want to do it, but I have to do it because I have to do that for me. I
mm,
was like, I don't owe her anything. I don't need to tell her this, but I did it. And actually, it was the best thing for us to be able to both come with that sense of honesty and that sense of vulnerability and just clear it and just to keep clearing it. And I think it will bring us closer in the end, but it's like, it's a
oh.
process and it's a difficult one.
Relationships aren't built in good times, they're built in the bad times. And the fact that you've been able to go through that and then communicate with honesty and vulnerability, and then they showed up, that's huge. And if you can then get a full recovery from that and a full resolution, which can absolutely happen,
Mm,
it actually makes the relationship stronger. It
absolutely.
Yeah, because you've built. That's how all relationships go through the 3 phases and end
Yes.
up at the final 1/3 of the mature love phase is by going through the conflict zone, the power struggle, and it's through power struggles that you get to really fucking learn each other, and
Yes.
you see the nasty, dirty, dark. I don't like to say that, but you see the other side of them, which
The
isn't.
shadowy side.
Yeah, I I detest the word shadow a little bit sometimes for a particular reason, because it kind of implies like something bad, right? And it's not
Mm,
bad, it's just survival, it's animalistic.
mm,
And we shy away from the fact that we are fucking animals and with very complex emotions and thought processes and more divine gifts. But ultimately it's not bad, it's not a shadow, even though like I know what you mean by the term. It's that it's we are emotionally like inept in some areas and we lash out not out of genuinely trying to hurt someone, even though we actually sometimes do in a moment genuinely want to hurt,
mm.
but it's being driven by hormones which have been hijacked by, and this isn't to give an excuse, but we genuinely aren't being ourselves and we're being
Yes.
manipulated by our body, which we aren't. That's why I say that's the woman and it's her body,
Yes.
because what she does is not a reflection of who she is. And again, this is a gray area because you can use it as an excuse or you can use it to empower you. It depends who's going to fucking hear
Mm,
this and how they'll take it. But yeah, we have a body that we need to learn to work in alignment with. And when we understand what it's capable of, which is some pretty dark shit or like dangerous stuff, we respect it a bit more and we work in alignment with it instead of being ignorant and then letting it
mm,
creep in and attack like she attacked you essentially, verbally,
mm.
emotionally, and she didn't mean it. That's probably because she doesn't understand herself very well. And then she also didn't probably protect boundaries that maybe you accidentally crossed, or she never
Yeah.
communicated something expecting you to fucking
Yeah.
know it, which is what
100%.
most relationships do.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like a people pleaser thing. You just lash out one day because I've given and given and given, and I've been tolerating this, and you're like, I didn't know you were tolerating that. You should have just fucking told me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
And
now
look,
you've
I
just lashed out at me.
100%. And I thought that it was going to go a certain way. I like everything I've just been speaking about. That's from my own experience as well. I was like, oh, I know that when I bring this up, this is what's going to happen. She's
Mm.
going to react like that. It's going to get worse. So why would I even bother? I have all of these preconceived ideas and I had to go against all of my own thoughts and be like, I'm still going to do it anyway. Even if it does do that, it's
Honestly, like that trait is so fucking rare. And that's like the ability to be able to do that. If everyone actually had that and they faced the uncomfortable thing in front of them now, it would save them so much pain later on.
mm. I think that there's two types of people in life. I think people who can handle physical uncomfortability and like people who can handle emotional uncomfortability.
I think there's three types, and there's an option that can't do either, and that's
Okay,
most
yeah,
people.
yeah. Okay. Because I'm good with physical pain if it's short and like I know that there's an end coming. I can endure, that's fine. But the thought of like doing hot yoga, like that is just, I couldn't. I just can't. I'm like, no, thank you. But
Yeah,
I'll happily have a conversation like this. That's so uncomfortable to so many people. I'm like, I'll take that 1,000 times over. Don't make me do the hot yoga. Can't
fair,
do it.
very fair.
Well, we've been chatting for a little while now, and we should probably wrap it up. It's getting late. Um, thank you for coming on.
It's
It's
been a pleasure.
been it's been a we've had some technical issues. We've had some like everything has been against us having this chat, but I'm glad that we persevered, and
Likewise.
it's been fun. Can you tell everyone who doesn't know who you are, what you do, like where they can find you and what you do, and all the things that you have to offer?
Sure.
Give us a
And
spiel.
thank you for the platform and the opportunity. I The easiest way to explain what I do is I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I help people rewire their minds and their nervous system to basically achieve whatever it is that they want. Typically, that looks like de-traumatizing the nervous system to get rid of these old beliefs and perceptual filters and conditioned responses we've been talking about so much, and install new neural pathways through a number of processes to propel you into the version of you that you want to be. I specialize in relationships. That's where my roots are in coaching, where I first began.
Mm,
And so I still help a lot of people with their relationships because it's such a large part of our life. And it's also where a lot of our shit and baggage first shows up. We
mm,
can be fine out of a relationship, but then when we're in one and the honeymoon phase wears off, things tend to change. And it's not because it's the relationship that's a problem. It's usually a lack of understanding, of the sexes, but then also the fact that we project. We have these four mirrors or reflections that reveal shit about us that we just previously never noticed. So that's what I do. Where people can find me would be Instagram or YouTube, and it's just Clayton Harrop. I think that was everything.
You wrote a book though.
Oh yes,
You
I'm
forgot.
in. I am juggling. I'm also getting a retreat ready for later this year, which is a big trauma release retreat, and I'm about to do one in America
So
actually.
tell us about it.
So the book, for example, is Understand Her. It's a book that I never intended on writing. I didn't want to be an author. I work with a lot of men and women, but the men I work with, I found myself explaining the same stuff over and over again. This is how you invalidated her. Do you see why she blew up? Do you see how she doesn't feel safe because you haven't been consistent? It was a repeat pattern of stuff that just men don't know, which when they understood and they actually got it and understood a woman like they understood their job, they've done a really good job at it. The woman would come back and say, "Oh my God, I feel so much safer about you around you, and I just don't know what it is that you've done, but I just feel more connected." And meanwhile, the guy has been very specifically following a structured analytical process,
Yeah.
which works in line with the nervous system, which is how to create physiological safety or biological safety through intellectual, emotional, physical layers. There's a process to it. So I was teaching the process again and again. I was like, I should just write this in a PDF. And so I created a nice Canva doc, and then what I thought would be a 20-page PDF turned into 50, and then 100. And it was about 100. I started like going, like, at what fucking point is this a book? And then at 150, I was like, this is a book. And so I announced it was going to be released soon, but then I was like, oh, this needs to be added to it. And then as I was helping men progress further and further along at different stages, and I read myself all the time, I'd go, that deserved to be in here. And so it's evolved into currently 396 pages. And it's completed. I'm just going through the final refinement of it now, so that men just have a very succinct three-step process to make any relationship with a woman work and to actually understand their woman and how to create safety and fulfill the other core feminine needs, so that she falls more in love over time as opposed to what 99% of women do, which is they fall out of love over time. So there's the book. And then yeah, there's a few retreats that I run or I'm running, where the idea is you come one person, you let go of a lot of baggage that you've carried for life, traumas, bad experiences, like so you said something happened 8 years ago. If that still has an impact and shows up in reality, there's a reason. Which when we deal with that and resolve it and teach the nervous system it's okay to let go of it because it has the lessons and learnings from that to prevent it, and it doesn't need to hold on to the negative emotions and then bring that up with the meaning. It changes your life because whenever the trigger happens, it's a very calm, neutral, if anything, positive way to navigate. Or your intuition just kicks in. You don't even know what's going on, but your intuition says, "Stay away from that person. Go do this. Talk to this person of this deal," and it leads to something that otherwise wouldn't. What happens as a result of that is you feel very different chemically, hormonally, and you have a very different reality. So the retreats are come, let go of the shit. And then not only do we let go, but we install a set of beliefs as well. One of which is I'm perfectly fine as I am, and I don't need any additional approval. So like when you actually leave believing that, especially as a woman, you would know like most women struggle feeling just good enough as they are and not needing to perform or show up in a certain way in a relationship, or being lovable regardless of how someone's treated them. I install beliefs like that, for example. And yeah, so that's what we do at the retreats. We clear a lot of shit, we put a lot of good stuff in, and you walk away with practices to keep that journey going as well.
So if they want to get the book or go on the retreats, they could just go to Instagram.
Yeah, the retreats, I've still got to put the pamphlets out, which will be in the next 3 4 weeks. But the book, if you go to Instagram, my link in bio or my website, there's an option to subscribe to an email list there, in which I'll be announcing the release of the book, which will be in the next 1 to 2 months.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I will, because I am also just a bit of a nerd in that way. I want to understand her. I will read it. I
I
want to
would
read it.
love your feedback on it. Yeah, I
I would.
think I've got a few female clients who've read the draft so far, and a few of them have screenshotted certain parts and sent it to me, like, oh my God, I felt so seen. Yes, this is exactly what fucking men need to know because they never do this. And it's a book built on maybe 1,000 hours now plus of like directly working with men and women on relationship based stuff. And it's also a byproduct of studying the giants in the industry like John Gottman and Terry Real and Alison Armstrong and a few others who collectively have over 150 years of experience specifically in relationships. And so I've taken I've done what I do best, which is I find principles that make things work. So there's a technique which might have 100 steps, or it might be limited or canned, but there's a principle which you can take and use anywhere that's true universally. And so I've
Yeah.
taken all these principles and baked them into a bunch of processes and understandings that when you actually get from by the end of the book, you can't look at women the same as a man. You will look at them in a much more empathetic, loving, and understanding way. And as a byproduct, you know how to make a woman feel seen, heard, and understood, which is the big promise of the book. Make a woman feel safe, seen, heard, and understood.
That is
It's a big
yeah, that
promise.
is that's we will see, won't we? We will see.
Yeah,
But I have
yeah.
high hopes for you. I think you'll do great things.
I appreciate
So
it a lot. Yeah,
thanks for coming on, and hopefully we can have a chat again soon. Maybe we'll both stumble upon a topic and we want to hash it out on the potty.
deep dive, absolutely.
Yeah, would love that. All right. And thanks everyone for listening. And I'll see you next month.
Thanks, Lauren. It's been a pleasure.